Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Your Legislators. I'm Anthony Morneau. Great to be with you. This week we speak with District 39 Republican State Representative Luis Terrazas. State Representative Terrazas, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now I'd like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to our viewers. If you could share a little bit about your background with our viewers.
Yeah. So I'm a native New Mexican. I'm actually first-born generation here in America. My dad was actually an immigrant from Mexico and came in the 50s as a 12-year-old boy. And so, a lot of the issues that we were listening here to today and the issues that we're confronted with are sometimes they hit home. So I definitely understand that. I'm married, have 5 children. Luis, I'm a funeral director, just so you know. I'm a funeral director, and my son is following in my footsteps, and he's getting his degree in mortuary science. The next daughter she's got her degree in biology, and she just moved to Texas to further her career there. My next daughter, who's 20, she's in the Air Force, and she makes dentures and that kind of stuff for people in the Air Force. She's in Biloxi, Mississippi. And then I got the last 2. I call them freeloaders because they're still in school. We're still teaching them and showing them how to become good citizens in the world and to provide for themselves. But they're 13 and 10, and so that's Allison and Abraham, and so they're still. My daughter just went to school for the first time Monday, so it was kind of, wow. And it was junior high, or what do they call it, middle school now, and so that's what's going on. I'm a funeral director, and so I have a couple funeral homes in the Southwest, one in Deming, one in Silver City. And I've been in the funeral business most of my life. Attended New Mexico State University, got my degree at Western New Mexico University in accounting and business administration, and then went to Dallas Institute of Mortuary Science to further my studies there as a funeral director. And so I wanted to move back home because I love New Mexico, and so here I am. And I was actually, my wife had talked about, I wanted to kind of semi-retire, take a little bit. I had taken my first 2-week vacation about 4 or 5 years ago for the first time ever, and so I said I need more of those. So I was going to do a little bit of that, and I think the environment in the last couple of years there's been a bit of turmoil in the legislative and political light, and I just wanted to give back to my community. So I said, you know what, before I decide to semi-retire and take those long vacations, I think it's time for me to give back to I've always supported my community, but I thought it would be a good thing to give back.
Well, that's good to learn a little bit about your background. So if you could share with us a little bit more, what was it about the political environment and the state legislature that made you want to get involved and run and eventually win? But what are some of the top issues that are important to you?
I live in a mining town. I live in Silver City, New Mexico, and our mine at that time was being, I'm going to use the word, targeted in some legislation that would have affected that corner of the state. It's not just Silver City. There's a lot of people employed at that mine. They're employed all the way from Luna County, of course, Grant County, Luna County, and Hidalgo County pretty heavily. And they provide a lot of jobs. And then from there, a lot of economy, they're a good economic driver for our area. It's the biggest employer there and good paying jobs. And so it was just that's one of the issues. The other one was abortion. I'll be honest with you. It was just the total repeal of abortion brought that, was very, very dear to my heart. And I just think that we needed to make some reforms rather than just stripping, all all the laws off the books at that to that respect. And I just saw that I personally felt as a small businessman that things have been tough for businesses. We have our tax code and stuff is a bit rough on people. Uh, for instance, Social Security income recipients and their income. I wanted to fight to exempt that, so that was one of my big things. You know, we're all tied together, Anthony. We're all tied together, and we need to respect each other. And I think sometimes there's no dialect between um, both sides. I think there's barriers there, very very polarized, and I told my wife maybe my work here will be to try to bridge those two the gap there, and try to find some middle ground, and hopefully do that. And I'm trying to do that every time I'm in committee. I'm listening to them and giving them my ideas. I do vet things quite a bit, whether I'm for or against them. I think that's what I was sent up here to do. Um, Very straightforward, honest, that I don't beat around the bush. I just tell you exactly where I stand. But I listen and try to understand where every person is coming from.
Yeah, there's so many issues that New Mexicans are dealing with now. So much has happened since the pandemic hit us about a year ago. Now, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you think you can do as a state lawmaker to help New Mexicans during this pandemic.
Yes, sir. Well, I think the very, very important thing is for us to, I just flew in. I just flew in, and as I was riding on the bus, they were talking about. I heard people on the bus talking about we need to open up and we need to do that. So, they're talking about schools, and so you hear people talking about that. I I I think it's very, very important for the state of New Mexico to help these businesses get back in business and follow the other states that have done that. We all have to live safely, but we also have to respect those people that are in business for themselves. Restaurants, for instance, those poor people have suffered a lot, losing their income to 25%. It went 50%, 25%, nothing up to 25%. I mean, imagine if any of us had our income affected that way, and then not only our income, but we're responsible for our employees and other people, and have obligations to maybe a financial institution. And um, so I just want to see us join other states in opening up safely. Uh, the more we can do that, we'll I think it'll do better. I know that there's been measures that New Mexico's tried to help small businesses, but those are really band-aids to a very, very serious problem. And I really feel that they need to get back to work. They're begging to go back to work. Schools on another, are another big issue. Throughout my district, uh, the failure rates were pretty high. Kids adjusting, kids not having enough internet service. Um, I have part of my district is in a 90% poverty stricken area, and literally the parents of the children were pitching in money to purchase internet that was viable enough for all the kids to join in at one household to go to school.
Wow.
And so you hear things like that and stories like that.
Well, it's not a rare story to hear something about communities in rural parts of New Mexico struggling to get online so they can take part in the remote learning assignments. Um, it may be easier in the larger communities for that to happen, but what are some things in Silver City that you think, as a state lawmaker, you could do to help pass and help these communities get online quicker so they can access the information they need to complete their assignments and to help their education in your area?
Well, sir, to that point, everything that we're talking about, we're behind. New Mexico's behind. We don't have obviously good broadband. I'll tell you, in my little town of Santa Clara, which is right outside of Silver City, is what are one of my businesses, and we literally have a satellite there, and it fragments on us. We struggle getting downloading. It doesn't matter how much we spend to try to get internet, it's not available. There's right down the street from us, I don't know, in the little town, kids are parked outside of the school so that they can get internet. And so, to do their schoolwork. And so a teacher just told me that 2 days ago. It's just, what can we do? I think that right now we're having all of the school boards are deciding on whether or not they're going to open. Some are doing hybrid learning, and that's a start. But we definitely need to do what we can safely. Of course, we have to do things safely, but there's other businesses that are thriving, that are working safely, and I believe the schools. I have faith that our educators and our administrators and superintendents can do the best they can to get it open, get our children back to school.
Now, you mentioned open safely, schools, businesses. What does that mean in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, if we can walk into some of the big box stores, Walmart, Albertsons, some of these other places, and function safely. I mean, look, people are your average citizen knows they go into Walmart. I've been here in Santa Fe. I go down an aisle at Walmart. There'll be sometimes two and three people, and we just respect each other, and we kind of try to avoid each other. I believe people will do the same in other businesses, such as restaurants and stuff. And so I feel that we just need to allow them. Look, if we don't move forward in opening up our businesses, they may not open up. There's a lot of them that will not open up already. That's a fact. We're going to lose a lot of businesses because the bills don't stop. As a small businessman, I can tell you, and I'm going to go back to the question: what can you do as a lawmaker? As a small businessman, before I was a small businessman, I was also a person making minimum wage at one point in my career when I started, $3.35. I remember what it was to make minimum wage. And I remember what it was to open my business with no employees, having my first employee, and up to 22 employees now. And what's happening right now in Santa Fe is they're passing legislation that is going to stack more pressure on these small businesses. Um, you know, Pushing minimum wage at $15 an hour, uh, the leave acts, and doubling the amount of unemployment tax rates, on the small businesses. It doesn't help when you've been closed for almost a year. We're coming up on a year, and some of the business, not all of them, but some of them are going to struggle just to start up. And I think there's a good portion that aren't even going to open up again. And so the longer we push this, the further we're going to get in, and the further in the hole, and some of these people will not open up. Look, if a place, some of these big businesses, corporate offices like Pier One, they went under. Who would have ever thought that? It just shows you how fragile business is. And so, as much as we want to, as much as I want everyone to thrive, from the employee, the employer, and our economy and our schools and everything all together, we just have to be careful, and it has to be a balanced approach. We have to move slowly. You just can't come drop all this all at once, uh, when these some of these businesses haven't fully opened yet. Does that make sense?
It does, and I want to move on and talk about something else because you brought
Sure.
up, obviously businesses having to adapt and the challenges they have. New Mexico lawmakers for much of the past year have talked about tax reform in the state and the need to address that, to get rid of loopholes, to perhaps pass legislation to exempt the Social Security tax, state tax that is. Now, I know you are involved with legislation with that. Can you tell me how you think this piece of legislation could help New Mexico?
Sure. So, Social Security income tax exemption. Why am I a supporter of that? First of all, it's we're double taxing that segment of the employees. They already paid their tax to already. And so now they're receiving it. They're in their upper ages to receive it. And some of these people are, it's not enough money for them to survive on. I've hired them in my businesses, in my businesses to help me. You see them sometimes at Walmart as a greeter and other places. You see people that are elderly, and you think about, why is that gentleman or that lady working? Maybe they're working because they want to do something, but maybe they're working because they can't support themselves on the Social Security income. Maybe they didn't have a good pension, and so um, there's a range there. I mean, the bottom portion, there's going to be some exemptions automatically that they don't have to. They may get even a small credit back, but then there's those that are still, they may still have a mortgage, they may still have a car payment, they still need to be able to survive, and the Social Security income isn't enough. Now they get a job, so automatically as soon as they get a job, they have to they have to file taxes. That means they have to show all their income. And so I was just trying to exempt some of that income to suppress, at least for the state of New Mexico, to help them survive. Uh, Look, what happens if the more pressure we put on business, it's all a balance. The more pressure, the more we lay on the backs of businesses, it just gets passed on to the consumer. And the people that hurt the most are those that are on fixed incomes. And I'm always going to stand up for them because I really feel that they don't have they have no way. At their age, it's difficult for them to make more income. At their age, they're stuck with where they're at. And so if we as a state, which is trying to pass all this legislation on small businesses, it just gets passed on to the consumer, and the ones that hurt the most are those on fixed incomes.
Another issue with this piece of legislation that I've heard people discuss before, state lawmakers have mentioned this, is that with the pandemic, there may be people looking to move out of bigger cities, more crowded environments, and relocate to New Mexico, and that this is something that may attract them to New Mexico.
Yes.
Do you think that could be the case as well?
Well, I agree with you 100%. I think being one of those states that doesn't tax those individuals, maybe some of those can retire here, and we can attract those people. There are those people that have pensions and are a little more stable in their income, and we could attract those people also here. We just I just think that I'm also actually helping with studying. I'm going to run a bill. I think it's 295. I'm trying to remember. We have all these numbers.
Yeah, dealing with
HB this,
military retirement. Is that the bill you're talking about?
Yes, sir. And it's just a study. I'm going to work I'd like to see that pass, and just see what we can do to attract more veterans. They have a stable income also. They've served our country 20 years or better, and they've given to our country. They've given to maybe our state, but I would love to attract them here, be a tier one state for veterans. I would love to see that. um, I just think it's a great study, see what the effects are. I don't know what those will be, but hopefully it's a positive thing for New Mexico.
Okay, now there's so many challenges facing the state of New Mexico, but one industry that is actually doing pretty well right now is the real estate industry for those who are selling homes. I know that's a booming business right now in Silver City and other parts of our area. In fact, people are selling property now in Silver City because there's simply not enough homes available. So can you tell me, how do you think New Mexico can benefit from this type of activity happening in our state?
Yes, sir. Well, I think, it's evident. You go to Las Cruces and they're building homes left and right. There's no inventory, or there's very little inventory to be purchased. And I believe that, I don't know all the statistics of why that's happening. I believe a lot of people are fleeing from California to come here. Uh, Probably to your point of what you made earlier, where there was crowding. I think, some of their tax legislation and other things that they're dealing with in California, that they're running away from and coming to New Mexico. They can purchase obviously property for, I don't know what it is on the dollar, but a lot less than what they're purchasing there. They can sell their home here and possibly retire on what they sold their home for and still buy a decent home here. So I think we're going to see that. I think absolutely New Mexico will benefit on that if we can get going again. Look, to have any stable economy, I mean, people are looking for simple things. They're looking for a decent place to live. They want their children to have a good school, good education. They want to be safe when they're out in the streets. They want to have good health care. They want to have just your basic necessities. And if we as a state can work toward providing those, and give little goodies of being not a state that taxes, Social Security income and certain military retirement and those type of things, I think it'll attract some people here, and we can boost our economy. We do have to find ways to diversify this economy. Um, I I'm really, because of where I live, I just see New Mexico as such a beautiful state. It has so much to offer. Um, we have look at all of our parks, and look at the beautiful forests that we have, and people come from all over the country, even the world, to come and see them. And I always ask people, why, how'd you end up here? Oh, I used to drive through here when I was a little kid on vacation going to California or whatever. And they expressed there was something to New Mexico that they love. And I really believe that if we were to invest in our parks and recreation, I really believe that that would be a very good industry. Other states have done that very successfully. Utah, Colorado, Arizona, they have leveraged themselves tremendously with a good tourism
Yeah.
and that type of industry.
It is something that we've seen New Mexico take steps towards. The state created an outdoor recreation division, office to help spur that tourism to our state to explore the outdoors. There is also the creation of the Outdoor Equity Fund that can help uh, underprivileged kids, youth in New Mexico explore the outdoors, funding for that. Is that legislation that you would support, enhancing funding
I
so that young
Yes,
people in the state can explore the outdoors and connect with the
yes, sir.
history here?
Yes, sir. And you know what? I believe, I want to make sure I've got this right. I believe there was $900 million that was, and that, I could be wrong on that, but it was a Great American Outdoors Act that we can take advantage of. There's a lot of money there that we could take advantage of to, you know, look. I go to Arizona. My kids, I used to take them there all the time, to Arizona, and go to some of these state parks, and they have good RV hookups. They have little cabins you can rent. They have clean restrooms. They have just things that are just basic necessities when you want to go and you want to camp and fish or whatever. And if New Mexico could do that, boy, man, that would be awesome. I mean, I'm going to sadly say that some of our lakes in our area, the bathrooms are questionable, and some of the infrastructure there needs a little help. Some of them are better than others, but I truly think that that is something that New Mexico needs to do. You better believe I would support things like that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of the other things for New Mexico that's always been a challenge is that there's always been a challenge for lawmakers to get more private businesses to come to New Mexico. And speaking with private business owners and people who work in economic development, one of the challenges that they always say is companies look for a state with good schools, with good quality of life. Now, just with the schools alone, there's been some challenges with New Mexico. Of course, we've heard about some students leaving the state because of remote learning challenges, but also, just the quality of education in general. Now, I know you have legislation that deals with helping out students with remote learning. It's aiming to do that. Can you tell us a bit about
Okay.
that? We only have a couple of minutes left, but I'd
You
like to hear
bet. No
about that
problem.
legislation.
Yes, sir. So the reason I brought that legislation forward is I wanted to, here the schools are closed. Parents are having to provide internet. parents are having to take care of their kids there in their homes for learning there in their homes. And I just wanted to give them some sort of a credit back, so that they would be able to pay for some of those expenses that they had. But you're right, Anthony. If again, if we don't work on our education, I mean, the key is I don't want to be sending. It's not a matter of sending just checks to teachers and parents and stuff like that. The key is to get our education up and running and get our schools open. Kids are craving to see each other. Look, here's the thing. But you'll see them playing in the parks and stuff like that together. We need them to go to school. We need to get, if we're not careful, we're gonna lose a whole year of education. We're gonna fall behind. You see it in their grades, and so yes, sir, 100%. It's one of the big things that attracts people. I mentioned the list earlier, and education's a big one. Can you imagine you get a job here, whether it's a great paying job or you want to start a great opportunity here in New Mexico, and then you look at the schools and you're going, I can't send my kid to that school, and so it hinders them from moving here.
Well, we'll see how the rest of the legislative session goes, dealing with so many issues that New Mexico has before it. I want to thank you so much for joining us, Republican State Representative Luis Terrazas.
Hey, thank you very much for having me here, and I really hope to support my district. I don't know that we talked about it. Silver City, Las Cruces, up toward almost to Tircias Caballo Lake, and a big square all the way back over. God bless you, and thank you for having me here, sir.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
And we want to thank you for joining us for your Legislators. I'm Anthony Moreno. We'll see you next time.